I know who I am. I'm a laying the dude disguises another dude.
Strengthen on us, strengthen on us, strengthen on us.
Hello. My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die.
Why so serious?
I could crush you like a worm.
At my signal, unleash hell.
Do or do not. There is no try.
All right. Hey, welcome everyone to this special edition Wednesday night, episode 30 of Christian Warrior Talk.
Oh.
Your Christian Warrior Talk channel to basically come here and where we discuss, all things that all of us are struggling with right now, walking the Christian warrior protector lifestyle, or even just, a strong, true Bible believing Christian right now, which is a really hard thing to be in a world that is denying truth, everywhere we go.
Yeah, that's the truth. And I popped the link for the YouTube stream over in the Facebook chat. If you are willing to head over there, that would be awesome for your help on the viewing minutes.
So the first thing I want to do is acknowledge the death of a legend, a great man. Rush Limbaugh passed away today from his battle with lung cancer. Conservatism, Trumpism, nationalism, whatever you want to call it, would not be nearly where it is today if it wasn't for Rush Limbaugh. There would be no Donald Trump. There would be no Ben Shapiro. There would be no Tucker Carlson. There'd be none of it. Rush Limbaugh invented it. So invented
the
talk radio, the platform, and really built it into an empire and was on the forefront, the tip of the spear in media for conservative voices. I mean, you look at the one place where they have failed to dominate was talk radio. And they tried to take it away from us countless times. But, Rush, it's a big loss for all of us, but I'm glad that he's done suffering. I can't imagine lung cancer, advanced stages of lung cancer is too enjoyable. So,
no, yeah, it was a pretty short. I mean, his diagnosis didn't seem to be all that long ago.
Yeah,
as far as the
it was
announcement of that,
basically a year, pretty close to a year ago.
Yeah,
I think it was last January.
Yeah, I have personally, I did not listen to him much, but I heard great things as far as kind of the content that he put out and the inspiration that he was. I know that you've mentioned even just from being a podcaster and someone who, is, we have to come up with content. We're just doing a couple days a week right now. And I know that you've commented several times about just how impressive it is that he got on and did his own thing every day
for hours,
for years.
Yeah, monologue for hours.
And he always came up with interesting,
entertaining,
thoughtful
interesting
things to share.
Accurate things. It's so, once you put a microphone in front of your face and you put it out on the internet, you have to be really accurate in the things that you're saying.
Yes. Yeah.
People will use any flub that you do, particularly when you're a big name, to beat you up with it.
Oh, of course.
I don't claim to be a massive intellectual or an academician or, any of those things. And it's obvious in my street language, so, I watched one of the highlights the other day where my dyslexia came through and I reversed some words, where it was, it was either bad things or things bad. I think I flipped up what happened to David. I'm like, man, my dyslexia still rears its ugly head every once in a while.
Yeah.
But, it's just mad props and respect for him to be able to entertain and educate for that long. You get Dennis Prager doing things now, I think taking it to the next level with, videos,
other videos,
and PragerU and all those other things. But, just mad respect to Rush Limbaugh, our hearts and prayers, and, go out to his family. You know, 70 years is too young, but it's still a good ride.
Yeah,
It's still a good
I think
ride.
he can certainly leave this earth knowing that he has left a significant mark.
Yep.
And I think it's awful, the things that we're seeing people say and celebrate about his death. You know, the people who were opposed to everything that he stood for. It's certainly you
It's a low for
feel
society
for the loved ones who are inevitably going to see some of that. And I'm sure that they've seen bad comments about him before, but when someone's alive, you can handle it a little bit differently than when that person's dead and you're dealing with that loss and then seeing that. So it's just as tragic, and it always shows you moral character in these moments of
it just makes
someone
me
passing.
want to harken back to the days before the internet and before, you know, before we became such a wussified society where you could go confront somebody who, you know, ran their mouth.
Yeah.
You know, now, you know, that's not the case.
We'll have to
and
say a
it's
special
unfortunate.
strength and honor for him on Friday, because Kaz, it's not Friday, but you can cheers for him anyways. And hi to the parishes.
Hey, you guys are not leaving Mississippi. It must be nice there.
Are you
time
getting
they've been in
any of the
Biloxi,
colds from
I thought
Texas?
you guys would be all over the country right now, but they've been in like Biloxi,
No.
Mississippi.
Yeah, they said that they were hanging there for a while. They're doing their metal detecting. Must be ripe grounds for metal detecting.
Yep. So, you know, it's just you know, another way to show how broken our modern day world is, where you have, you know, particularly, you know, Lauren saw some screenshots of Disney actors saying some of the most horrible things, but, you know, and again, the double standard, there'll be nothing accountable.
Yeah.
You know, you want to talk about something about his Wikipedia page?
Yeah, so I mean, I can pull this up. Someone, one of our viewers, Scott Torchick, if you're watching, I saw this on your page. Just some awful things that people are sharing on social. So one, this actress, I hadn't heard of her, but Cristela Alonso said, "Happy Rush Limbaugh's dead day. I didn't even get the chance to put up my tree." And I guess she works for Disney or is in that world too. So it's just a direct comparison to, you know, Gina,
Whatever her name is.
being-
Yeah,
being
Gina.
fired for a comment, and then this, I'm
Well,
sure
her
gonna be-
comment was an educational comment. It was giving factual, historical
Right.
reference to what the Nazis did by making their neighbors hate the Jews before they did the concentration camps
Yeah.
and everything else.
Well, and what strikes me is he was an opinion person,
yeah,
you know, and so this is hating someone viciously for their opinion. You know, they didn't even go out
Well,
and
that's the
do
left.
violence or anything.
He wasn't
you
a
know,
politician. He
So it's just
wasn't
it's
any
that
of those.
whole
Yeah.
like words hurt kind of issue. And then another comment was, I was hoping he'd suffer a bit more, but at least he's gone at 70 and didn't have time to spread his hate. He was the start of the hate-filled, racist, misogynistic, right-wing talking heads. I hope whatever pain he had is only the beginning. And then I think one of the most disturbing ones, only because it strikes me, because I know that a lot of kids use Wikipedia as their source when they are doing research. Most teachers will accept it, unfortunately. His bio in Wikipedia was edited today, and the last line says, "Limbaugh died on February 17th, 2021 of lung cancer and returned to the pits of hell."
Wow.
And now students who are going to research, you know, who is Rush Limbaugh or what, you know, what have you in Wikipedia, because that is a source of information online, they're going to see that clearly biased, disgusting stance.
Wikipedia is screaming for money all the time about them running out of dough. I think they can write off, conservative America's dollars from here on out. I know I won't.
Oh, I know. I've seen people canceling their accounts.
You know, so yeah. So, anyways, but there's I was getting really down on this, right? Like every time I see cancel culture, and every time I see these things happening, and I see the left kind of winning by breaking the rules or preventing other people from doing things and all that, and it just highlights their weakness.
Oh, yeah.
It just so highlights their weakness.
Yeah.
And it gives me hope because everybody who's a conservative and who's truly a go-getter is not going to tolerate that. They're going to educate their kids, and they're just going to fall further behind. So, and this leads us into the education system that we wanted to talk about tonight. There's some
And
news
William,
stories.
thank you for that very kind comment. He's asked for how baby B's doing. And,
Oh man, we got big news. All
so,
right, put everything else on hold.
Yeah, well, so
some more
Jason
good news.
shared, and Dada stepped up to the plate here when we were having some speech issues with B, and he did what Jason does, which is go all in, all hands on deck. And so he went out and he got chocolate chips and gummy bears, and both of which B doesn't have. That's not really a normal treat for her. And he started having training sessions with her after lunch and dinner. And within, I would say, session 2, she immediately picked up on, oh, okay, when you say something, I'm supposed to say it back to you. And
which that had been bouncing off her forehead for 2 years almost. All it took was
sugar.
Sugar. Proper motivation.
So she will, she now repeats mama, mama. And if you say
it's not repeats mama, You said now.
Can I?
Okay, all
Can I
right.
finish? Holy smokes.
Just trying to talk down about what my daughter achieved.
Lordies. I'm going to finish the story. Okay?
Yep.
All right. So before, we knew that she could make the sound mama because she would babble it off on her own. But if you said, say mama, ma, she wouldn't do it. And so then she started mimicking it. And then it's, we'd say, who is that? And she'd say, Dada. And Jason would say, who's that? And she'd go, and she had come up with the name Bapti. That was her attempt at saying mama was Bapti. And then she started going, Bop'em. And then she started saying ma, ma, ma. And so now if you say, who's that? Or who am I? She'll say mama. So big progress. So next,
she knows her name is mama.
Next step is to have her use it kind of independently, as far as kind of asking for me or whatever, instead of just on request. But huge progress. So props.
Thank you.
Strength and honor early to Jason
cheers
for stepping
out
in on
Friday, but I don't know. I was, someone asked I think Che asked if Lauren cried, and I'm like, Lauren is the ice queen. She does not cry over emotional,
I got that little tight in the throat.
Things. She cries over stress. I cry over the heartwarming
He's
things.
the mushy one.
And don't
no,
cry
but
over
I
stress.
got the little oh.
So
I
anyways,
restrained the tears.
Huge day for us, and it really, capped off. And as you guys know, after the week we had last week, this week has been amazing. Blessings and, some really great things. Opportunities that we can't talk about yet, but just know that we're going to Boone, North Carolina in 2 weeks to scout the area. Some hope for some rentals. Once it stops being wet here, we'll put our house on the market.
Holy smokes, yeah.
But just really great things. So I want to get into
schools
because I think you guys, the silver lining in the left absolutely destroying themselves. All right, the left, and if your kids are in public school, pull them out, homeschool them, or send them to a Christian school, a solid Christian school, a real Christian school, or you're going to have to augment and tutor them to undo the damage they're doing. Because, go ahead, Lauren, tell them what these schools are doing.
Well, do you?
I'll start with
the LA
California.
One. Yeah.
So Los Angeles County Schools is defunding their police by 33%, something like that. And they got rid of, how many was it, 200 officers?
They cut 133 school police positions.
Yeah, they cut off 133 schools. It's like 70-something of that were sworn officers, some other non-sworn officers, and one support staff. So all the active shooter people, or a lot of them are gone. And what did they replace them with, Lauren?
What they call climate coaches. And at first I was like,
coaches.
Climate
The environment,
The environment,
no.
no.
No, these are de-escalation in healthy environments, and what equity of outcome coaches, to where white supremacy is just literally everywhere, and they need to roll all these programs.
So they are trained to implement positive school culture and climate, use de-escalation strategies to resolve conflict, understand and address implicit bias, and eliminate racial disparity in school discipline practices. The new plan does not allow individual schools to apply to keep police officers on their campuses.
Yeah, and then can you go to the other programs that they added in there? It's right there after that. You're going to love where they're spending your tax dollars.
Well, so this is part of the $36.5 million Black Student Achievement Plan, which aims to provide supplemental services and support to schools that have large Black student population. Let's see. The plan, just trying to see which part you're wanting me to read.
It goes into 2 million, 12 million. They break down those parts. I can pull
Okay,
it.
so the $30.1 million for improving school climate and reducing over-identification of Black students in suspensions and discipline actions.
Right. So if somebody with a different skin color, beats somebody up, they're being wrongly suspended.
Yes.
Which, having worked in the inner city, haven't seen broken homes, and it's got nothing to do with skin color. But if you're a white kid in all black school, your life's hell. Just like I'm sure if you're maybe a black kid in all white school, your life's probably a hell as well. But, it's anyways, there's a bunch of garbage in there. But the main thing is they're setting us up for some catastrophic failure when it comes to active shooter, right? Because we haven't
California
had
has had its share of active shooters. It's not like it's rare in that gunless
exactly.
state.
With Thousand Oaks and with other schools and everything else. So they've decided to pull that out. Why are they doing that? It's part of the next time one of these schools happens, they're going to use it as an
Any
excuse
violence
to
reinforces their gun control.
Their gun control ban, right? So here they are pulling out all this stuff, right? And Parkland was the most preventable active shooter in the history of the world. I can't even go. I mean, we could take another hour, and I've done this in previous episodes to show you how many times that could have been prevented, and it didn't. But they're gutting it. Now, to piggyback
and let me say this: officers will remain on call to respond to emergencies with a goal of a 3 to 5 minute response time.
3 to 5 minutes, you've already got a lot of people dead.
Yeah.
Right, and that means it's terrible. It's 100% being set up for failure. Your kids don't mean anything. It's all this equitable outcome.
Especially your white
now.
kids.
Right, exactly. So now we're going to talk about how awesome New York is and what they're doing with their kids. Because didn't you know that math is racist now?
No, that's Oregon.
Oh, sorry, Oregon. Sorry.
Do you want to
Oregon on the
one?
West Coast. Yeah, go to Oregon.
Okay. So the one thing that we thought would be safe, from disagreement because it's math and there's one answer to a math problem.
1 plus 1 is 2.
That's racist.
Yes.
So Oregon is implementing a program to help make math less racist. And this is called a Pathway to Equitable Math Instruction. And the goal is to reduce the toxic characteristics of white supremacy culture with respect to math. These characteristics include focusing on getting the right answer. How racist.
Yeah. How dare you get the right answer? I mean, I guess only white people get the right answer.
Students being...
how racist is that for them to even say that?
I know.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, how are, black people not offended? We can't do math.
Yeah. Students being required to show their work and teachers treating mistakes as problems by equating them with wrongness.
It's not the wrong answer. It's just not the right answer.
Upholding the idea that there are always right and wrong answers perpetuate objectivity as well as fear of open conflict. Teachers are recommended to have students come up with at least 2 answers that might solve the problem. And it goes on. Yeah. But it's just like...
It's just so here's what I want to convey to those conservative patriots out there. The left is going to weaken themselves and destroy themselves to the point where they're just literally... Jell-O in the corner that you throw a pellet on every now and then to feed it, and it'll be fine. Because, I mean, they are lowering all standards. They're changing all things. And, yes, it's going to hurt America. But after we get, all we're going to keep doing is getting stronger. All they're going to continue to do is get weaker. And
it might backfire, because if there's one thing that politics can be put aside for, is parents want the best for their kids, and they get very mama bearish about, their kids' education. So the more that crazy enters the picture for what these kids are receiving in school, and in more and more kind of just ridiculous ways, that is only going to make parents go, what the heck is happening? So it might work in our favor, for more parents to say, this is just ridiculous.
You would hope, but it's like, the crazy thing is, have you ever seen, there's a bunch of like Turning Point USA and other ones where they go and they'll interview black people and they'll be like, is it racist to require an ID?
Yeah.
For voting? And they're like, no.
It's the white people who think that everything is racist.
Are you saying I'm too stupid to go get a license? I mean, it's such a, like, the crazy thing about Democrats, and I'm not the only one to say this, is they project their garbage on you.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, oh, those people aren't smart enough to go do that. Mm-hmm. Whereas we're like, of course they are.
Yeah.
And they just project their own inner garbage on everyone else.
Yeah, by lowering standards.
And then they magnify. They're like, well, I am a Democrat, and I am principled, and I am a good person. If I am feeling this way, those Republicans over there must be 1,000 times worse than me.
Oh, absolutely.
It's absolutely disgusting. And, they're going to eat themselves. And that's just all there is to it. So it's just a matter of time. And right now where the pendulum is swung, we're going to have, we're 20 something months from the next midterm elections.
Who wants to think about that?
I don't, which is why we're moving south. Right. Yeah. But, so anyways, so that was two things. And then I don't know if you guys saw this Manhattan school, which sent home an 8-step program, or whatever it was called. It was
a thought-provoking exercise for
only the white
For
parents.
the 8 kind of levels of whiteness for parents to reflect on. And I'm not sure if they were supposed to send anything back. I hope not. But it was just they wanted parents to consider how white they are. And there was the best version of white was disowning your whiteness.
Yeah, it was white traitor and then white abolitionist.
Yeah.
Right. So white traitor was the second, was number 7, and number 8 was white abolitionist.
Yeah. And then the worst, obviously, was white supremacist. And then the step down from that was not white supremacists themselves, but they don't disown the white supremacists. so it's like, I don't know what, just this whole concept of reflect on your level of whiteness. And if they were supposed to send something back, then what? Do you think people are going to send back? Yeah, I definitely in the white supremacist category. Yeah, what are they going to do with that? It's just the most ridiculous thing.
Here's the thing. We all should be proud of what we are, right? It's who we are,
mm-hmm.
right? There's, black pride, white pride, Latino pride, Asian pride. We all are who we are, and we should all be proud of who we are, and we shouldn't be penalized for that. Imagine where we would be, right, if it took away all the intellectual progress and all of the inventions of any race. The world would not be a good place.
No.
Right? Now, you can extrapolate from that what you will based upon, grades of that, right? But it basically comes down to, we all should be, proud of who we are and being so wrapped up in identity. It's an obsession with them. Like literally it is an obsession with them. They cannot get past the color of your skin for anything. That explains everything is the color of your skin, which is the most racist thing on the planet, which is what they accuse everyone else of.
Yeah. Well, white pride is equal to white supremacists. So
black pride is not.
Of course not.
Right. Yeah, I'm just wondering, and again, I'm not, I don't care what your color is, but I've never seen white business month or support white businesses here.
Yeah.
Or, hey, support white musicians here.
I think they
like
say
I get
kind of
on everything
by
else.
default, any day or any month that is not dedicated to these minority groups is automatically for the white people because culture is, our society is bent that way.
So
I'm awake. I'll send the teacher back with homework to identify 8 levels of their stupidity.
yeah, exactly. So it basically comes down to this, man. And this is, again, why I think we're going to be better. You're right, I'm awake. I am more optimistic on this because of people like you saying that you're going to homeschool, we're going to homeschool. More and more people that we know are going to homeschool. More entrepreneurial conservatives are going to start conservative schools. And guess what? They're going to be the smartest kids.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to crush life.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be the thought leaders. They're going to be the ones that go out and do things. And everyone else who's like, hey, we need an engineer to solve this problem. Who do you think they're going to pick?
Yeah.
The person who's got, well, I came up with these answers here. They have nothing to do with the
problem
equation.
is they're going to want to pick our kids, but they're going to have to pick the XYZ minority person because of all of the
They may, but
federal
they'll be out of
guidelines for
business
hiring.
if they do that.
Yeah. Well,
Meaning that, when you have a problem to solve and you need to put a spaceship on the planet Mars,
yeah.
Or you're trying to get a cure for cancer or COVID or any of these other things.
It's going to be scarier and scarier to go to the doctors and see a young person walk in the room because who knows what is required to graduate med school anymore as far as
it's just So anyways, those were the 3 school stories that we want to talk to you about that highlight how insane the left is, and at the same time, should offer us hope that that they're going to be irrelevant in the next 20 years if they keep doing this.
we can pray.
Yeah. Where everything, the new word is equitable if you haven't figured it out.
Yeah.
Equitable outcomes,
Well,
which means that it doesn't matter how hard you work. The person who doesn't work hard and the person who doesn't work at all get the same outcome.
yeah, I mean, that is
That's some Animal Farm stuff right
that
there.
that is the new version of equality, which,
Right.
equality is you are given the same opportunity. Equity is you get the same outcome.
Yeah, you get the same outcome no matter what you do. So why work hard?
Yeah.
Why apply yourself? Why do anything, right? I mean, it's human nature. It's absolutely crazy. Affirmative action will dictate the color of the skin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Texas, I agree with you, but the thing is, there's going to be places and states and everything else where they're not going to play that, right? So when the economy in Massachusetts and California and all the woke places is done and no one's going there to those hospitals or no one's doing, I mean, the market will straighten it out as long as we're allowed to have a market, right? Which is why we have to fight the culture war, right? We haven't talked about the culture war in a little bit, so let's talk about the culture war. Let's recap for anybody who might be watching us for the first time. We have to fight for this country, not in the kinetic realm, which is like the second Civil War, where we're out there shooting bullets and bombs and guns and tanks and planes. That is not going to work out well for anyone. We have to win this on the local level. And what I mean by the local level is you better show up and you better know and you better start picking people who run from dog catcher all the way to president. You better know who they are, right? And you better get involved in that. You got to get involved in your committee meetings. You got to get involved in your school board. You got to get involved in all those ridiculous things. And you got to organize people around you because no one's going to do that for you. The left has community organizers.
Yeah, they're good
and
at
that's
it.
what they do. Barack Obama made that the cool thing.
Yeah.
I'm a community organizer. We're all too busy making money and trying to provide for our families, right? So we have to be our own community organizers. And where do you do that? If you're a Christian conservative, in your churches. When stuff starts going wrong and they want to have the transvestite do story time in your school, you have 4,000 people in a picket line in front of that school saying, we're going to fire the principal if you let that happen, or the librarian, or whoever the head whatever is. And that's how you do it. You got to draw the line, give them maximum resistance, be the squeaky wheel, right? And force your will upon those and elect people. Don't be afraid to unelect people.
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
there's an effort right now to get rid of Mitt Romney. That would be amazing to show that.
Yeah.
Like all
Mitch McConnell.
Mitch McConnell. I've actually even saw that they're trying to censor
the North Carolina dude.
the North Carolina dude, and Susan Collins,
Probably.
right? And they all need to go. They all need to go. They all need to go.
And because they get so comfortable in their seats, thinking that once they're there,
Yeah, they
people
can
are
do
just going to
whatever
want
they
to keep
want.
the R in the seat, and they're not
Yeah,
going to risk
it's
losing
a
them.
It's a different time.
Mhm.
So, the next thing I wanted to talk about is Lauren put out a really cool video on Instagram, and I think you should talk about that and share that with people who might have missed it.
Well, yeah, I was hoping that we could turn it into a conversation.
Okay.
So we've gone through our marriage struggles in the last couple of weeks that we've shared with you, and so we're pretty much on the other side of that. So in reflection, I made a video on how to fight in a Christian marriage. So how do we need to handle ourselves as Christians when we have conflict in our marriages?
Yeah. Learning how to fight fair is huge,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because scorched earth means nobody wins,
And I think
and the damage done to your marriage is
unfortunately,
terrible.
so many people, they call themselves Christians. They live as Christians in many other aspects of their life, and when their marriage is going well, they probably live, they're a good Christian, but as soon as they're put on the defensive against their partner, people get really ugly. You
Yeah.
hear stories about how people fight, and there's no God in that.
There's no grace, right?
yeah.
Those really great Christians that, pray for grace and count on grace, give none.
Yeah. So I just put out a video on Instagram it had 4 things, and I've added another one to talk tonight, but things that helped get us through this past couple weeks, and that I think can help people whenever they're having their own kind of conflict in their marriage. So I think the first one, and we've talked about this before, and it's probably the most obvious and important one, is prayer. Praying for your partner throughout the conflict, and also praying with each other. Prayer is a very vulnerable act, especially when you're doing it out loud with someone else. And I think a lot of married people don't really pray together outside of maybe grace, at the table. But holding that person's hand who you are in a fight with, and coming together and asking God together to be with you throughout this period of conflict, and to kind of soften both your hearts and speak honestly, but speaking honestly to God, I think, in front of the other person and kind of with each other. I think that can shift the emotion a lot from that conflict, and kind of can deflate any anger that is there.
Using prayer as, and God as your mediator,
Mm-hmm.
right? When you're going there and you're being honest and you're being vulnerable, and you are praying like an open book to God,
Mm-hmm.
with holding your spouse's hand, that's another way of communicating with your spouse.
Yeah.
What you're struggling with, and they can see, what's going on. But if you don't trust your spouse enough to pray honestly,
Mm-hmm.
you got some big issues.
Mm-hmm.
You need to start praying, forcefully, honestly, and transparently
Mm-hmm.
with your spouse, because it's just another way to check on the health of everyone.
Mm-hmm.
You may have thought I have a great day, but if I'm sitting there talking about a struggle when
Yeah.
I'm praying, grace, or before I go to bed, or any of that other stuff, like and the other thing is, don't be afraid to go get your significant other and say, can you pray with me on something?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
And then when you're the significant other, don't just sit there and hold their hand. Offer it up. Reinforce that prayer. Like when they pray and they're like, hey, God, let me with this, let me with that, do that. The best prayers I've seen between couples is when they trade back and forth, right? And then, whoever closes it out, doesn't matter. But going out there and then And reinforcing those prayers is such a good thing to do. It just, because the person who's in the crosshairs, who's under attack or, struggling might not see all the things that are going on. And that's what the person who knows you best on this planet, which is your significant other, can kind of reinforce you along those ways.
And that's something that I personally need to work on being better about, is the praying out loud with you part. I need to offer that up more.
Sure.
And then also praying for your partner, kind of in privacy, just to God, asking God to bless that person. Especially when you're in a fight, your heart hardens a little bit, not hardens in the way of like you don't love them anymore, but you don't always kind of wish the best in that moment. And so I think asking for God to bless your partner and praying for them to get what you hope out of the argument or whatever's going on will also, again, then kind of shift your perspective back to how it's supposed to be in your marriage and remind you of the priorities and the love that is there and all of that. The next thing that I find to be helpful is to be intentional with how you act around your partner in this time of struggle. Again, as I said, if sometimes you don't always feel the most generous towards your partner when, they've done something that made you angry or they're mad at you or whatever the situation is. And it's tempting to kind of shut off the consideration. So for example, and I said this in the video, like most mornings, if I'm down early, I'll make Jason's coffee and have his mugwort, on the table and stuff like that. Just a gesture that says I'm starting the day by thinking of you and I love you, that kind of thing. And there's moments when we have a problem that I will be in the kitchen getting ready to go to the couch and be like, oh, I didn't make his coffee yet, and being tempted to just keep going to the couch and say, not today. And those
there were a couple of days last week.
And it's not always intentional that I don't do. I do miss it some days. Boss Lauren. So now he's going to read into it every time I don't do it. There's some days it just doesn't happen. But it's so much more important when you're having an issue and like the love is not freely flowing between two people, to do those gestures that are kind of the tangible reminders that the bigger picture is we are in this together. We love each other. We're on the same team. I still care for you. I still like you. I still love you. And they become even more important. So being more deliberate and more intentional with those things that might not feel natural in that moment, touching them more, making eye contact. I know I retreat when I'm upset. And so I avoid eye contact, or, I don't talk as much. And just being.
She doesn't just avoid eye contact. She won't even face me.
I'm trying to sort things out and I need space. But so,
she won't even face me. I'll be like, man, I haven't seen the front side of Lauren today, so I know something's wrong.
So he comes around. Is something wrong? No, so just be more intentional, even when it doesn't come naturally to you. Do you have anything you want to add on that? Other than saying all of my short.
No. The be intentional or deliberate. Nobody. You guys have heard me say this before. Nobody just rolls over into happiness. No one just rolls over into a good marriage. It doesn't just happen. You have to work on it, and you have to be constantly nurturing that, even when you don't feel like it. That's when it's most important. When you're fighting, and it's that kiss on the cheek, or that hug, or just taking a moment just to hold their hand, or just stop being busy and try to get some physical reconnection. And sometimes it's just a good cry. Sometimes it's a really long hug. Sometimes it's whatever it is that works for you. Everyone's wired differently, but in those dark moments, you have to do those. Like, even if it isn't resolved yet, maintain that connection. All right. Because just retreating and saying, screw the other person, The only person who wins there is the enemy.
Yeah, and I think if you avoid all of those things, the issue might get resolved, but then you're left with all this baggage and separation from what kind of got added into the problem and in the lack of resolution. And so then on paper, the problem's gone, but you now feel very separate. So I think it's making sure that you don't allow that void to grow.
So this list that Lauren came up with, we're really good. We don't carry problems forward, meaning that we don't have like a whole, shopping cart of problems that we deal with them in the moment. I mean, we put our business second. There are days where we have extremely busy schedules and we'll cancel it all and we'll sit down and work on our problems as a family.
We're lucky to be able to do that.
But whatever was going to happen, obviously not everyone can do that all the time, but make your marriage a priority. Mm-hmm. Like, don't go 2 weeks without addressing something. Address it that day. Don't go to bed angry.
Yes.
I mean, that is it's really, really important to do that, because if you don't, next thing you know, you're going to start growing apart, and then you start sleeping in separate rooms, and then you have a roommate, not a wife or a husband.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. The next one, and we've talked about kind of the roles in marriage in a previous episode, and kind of what is it Jason was talking about kind of as being the husband and struggles with being the leader of the family. Mm-hmm. But remembering your role in the marriage, this is part of kind of being a Christian and fighting as a Christian, is remembering the dynamic that you're supposed to respect as husband and as wife, and that the husband's the leader of the family. And, this isn't going to apply necessarily to all fights. Not all fights are over decisions. But if it is decision-based, the husband as the leader in the family is the ultimate decision maker for the family. The wife is as the submissive entity to the relationship, supposed to honor what the husband decides. On the flip side, the husband is supposed to kind of treat his wife as Jesus, treats the church. Is that correct? And be respectful and cherish her. And so he needs to honor and be concerned about what her needs are and her concerns are. So it should be this symbiotic concern for each other, essentially. And I think part of the problem when a conflict is over a decision is if there's not that respect or not confidence in both people doing their roles as they're supposed to. If the wife doesn't believe that the husband is really going to God on whatever the decision is. I know that someone, after we talked about this before in a previous episode, someone asked, what do you do? And I actually threw this question out in the Questions of Faith series. What do you do as a wife if your husband is not a believer? Like, are you still supposed to be submissive to him? And I was actually surprised. I thought people would say, yes, that's still your job. And there's people said, no, if the husband is not a believer and therefore not doing God's
Depends on the situation.
So I think that
if they're doing
that's
something
a hard
contrary to God's will, then I would say no.
So, that's not our situation in that, you're not a believer. So it's just, it's having faith in your faith, basically.
Yeah, let me talk about leading from the front with that. So, again, we'll talk about our exact situation. So I was kind of pushing more for the RVing thing. And Lauren was open to it, but not feeling it. I don't know if she was being polite or if it was just kind of like a cool idea, but
I can speak to it. I love the concept of it. And so that's why I was entertaining the conversations as far as we got into it. It's the two concerns, and we talked about this last Friday, the significant impact on daily life, daily routine, which largely falls into my world as far as kind of running the household. Now the household is an RV, and then the finance piece, but that's a separate
Yep.
So it's kind of, I would go about my day and say, how the heck would I do this in an RV?
So I started thinking about, my needs versus Lauren's needs. And, Lauren's needs are more important to me than my needs. And, I am a lot more adaptable than Lauren is. So Lauren is the queen of routine. She is the queen of familiar, and I am ultra adaptable. So I just said, why am I going to force my wife to do something that she's going to be miserable? And when Lauren's miserable, no one's happy. So I'd rather say, hey, I know I can be happy anywhere. So why don't I, pick up my cross, carry my cross, and, even though I want to do this, I'll do what Lauren wants to do on this point, because I wasn't hearing from God that I had to go do this. It wasn't that. And, and the main thing out of all that is we shouldn't even been sweating the load on any of this, and we should have just put it in God's hands, and he would have decided, and we would have had none of that drama, none of that fighting. We wouldn't have worried about all these things, and we would have saved ourselves about $1 million,
Yeah, if there's any lesson learned from it, it's
stress measurement.
Don't get ahead of
increments,
God
whatever
in
you
your
wanna call
plans.
those.
Don't get ahead of them.
Yeah.
It's like we don't even have the house on the market yet. And I think where we believe that if God wants this house to sell, it's going to sell. And we didn't carry this faith forward in that God will also then open the door on what's next.
Yeah. So that's what it kind of looks like from this. So, just because you're the husband and you're getting to make the calls, are you doing it to serve yourself, or are you doing it to serve your family? Right? So that's the difference. The mission is your family, not, I want to go do this because that makes me happy, and everyone in your family is taking a heat because of that. You have to figure out what's going to be what is going to be generally the best thing for you to serve the Lord going forward.
Mm-hmm.
So, everything happens for a reason, guys. I mean, I've been talking a lot about that lately, particularly, looking at the figures in the Bible who have gotten their teeth kicked in, even when God loves them, like adores them, thinks they're the greatest, chose them, they still struggle.
Yeah.
It's not like they walk around with this golden shield on them, this glow, and everything happens in their lives, is rainbows and, and great times. No, awful things happen to all them, and, they don't despair, and they don't blame God, and they don't get angry with God.
Yeah.
I was getting angry with God because I'm a Christian. Things are supposed to work out now. I was an atheist for all those years, and that's why it didn't work out. So now that I'm a Christian, it's easy street, right? Not so much.
Wrong.
So anyways.
Yeah. Okay. So the last one that I shared in the video was something, this is one of my, I hate when people do this, and I know it's a very common problem, bringing up old issues in a new argument. And I think, especially in thinking about this from the Christian's perspective and forgiveness, which is like the primary thing that we're supposed to do. If you've forgiven your partner for something in the past, do not bring it up again when you're having a new problem. Yeah. And people, they want to bring in all of the old baggage from when they were wronged by that person before so that they can
get their way,
be on the higher side of the argument this time, and, and strengthen their position. And that is so unfair. If you forgave them for it before, leave it alone. Yep. And it's either you did not truly forgive them, and you still need to work through it, which by all means, take this opportunity and say, okay, you know what? I really haven't resolved this. Let's work through it and then leave it alone. Or you need to understand better what forgiveness means.
Yeah. You need to dive in your Bible and remember the measuring stick that you use is going to be used against you.
Mm-hmm.
So, I find that a lot of Christians want a lot of grace for themselves and they want to give none.
Mm-hmm.
And, we saw a poor friend of ours who dropped a funny meme on Facebook or Instagram or both about the King James Version. Lauren, you want to describe the meme?
Yeah, I mean, he took it down, so I can't remember exactly what it said, but it was a picture of maybe a scene from a movie, like, of old royals, you know, so it was back in the
Yes,
day, and they were like looking down, you know, all haughty and judgmental. And the writing on the meme said something like the way that people who read the King James Version look at all the other versions of the Bible.
Yeah.
And
That's
funny,
some funny
it was
stuff
funny,
right
you know.
there.
And I guess I saw that, and I didn't read any comments, and then I saw he posted basically an apology, an appeal for forgiveness, and like a retraction of this meme, saying, you know, he thought it was funny, you know, he meant no offense, and this is like the kindest person you ever care to meet. And we'll talk about some of the stuff he's doing in another show. I mean, he's doing great things for God, but he would never ever intentionally try to like hurt people or rib people. He doesn't have that kind of sense of humor.
And all these Christians were so judgmental and came back and were ripping him a new one. It's like, where is your grace?
Yeah.
Where is your humor?
Yeah. And so he's like, I didn't mean to start a war on my page. People, you know, please forgive me. And all the people were chiming in on that apology saying, we thought it was funny, you know, sorry people don't have any sense of humor. And I think that's one of the big downfalls of Christians and the
no fun.
appearance of
people,
Christians is, no sense of humor.
A lot of Christians out there are absolutely no fun to be around.
Well, because so much of humor does.
That's what I loved about The Chosen. It shows Jesus laughing and joking around with his friends and saying funny things.
Well, I think, and that's humor very often, you know, it's either self-deprecating or it lightly pings on other people or of a culture or whatever, you know, but that's a lot of what makes humor up there's truth in it, but it's framed in a funny way and not in a way that's meant to hurt people. But that's why you see all these comedians being canceled these days, because their humor is also offensive.
Justin Yeber, what if God was one of us? I don't understand that question. No problem. I have no problem, you know, answering that question. Can you elaborate on it?
That's a song.
What's that?
It's a song, and it was a show.
Oh.
What if God was one of us, just a stranger on a bus?
Okay.
I don't know why he's putting that there, but and Shay, thank you for being honest about your struggles with
Shay,
forgiveness.
You don't fully understand forgiveness, so you know I've talked to people about this, and there's a couple examples in the Bible that I think that are very key. The biggest one is Joseph. You know, his brothers were plotting to kill him. They ended up putting him in a pit, and they're discussing what they're going to do with him. And they end up selling him into slavery in Egypt. And then decades later, after he goes to prison and all these things, he's now running the entire state of Israel, and his brothers have washed up on his doorstep. They don't know he is him. And they're there begging for, you know, food and supplies because a big famine has decimated the land. And he tests them, right? He forgives them, but he tests them. Mm-hmm. And this, you got to remember that Joseph did this before the Bible was written, before Jesus was there, before the teachings of Jesus were there, before any of this stuff. So he really got forgiveness down. And the way I explain forgiveness is it's like zeroing out your credit report, right? It's like paying off your balance of debt on your account, right? Now, if, you know, it's not forgotten, right? It's forgiven, right? So if you come and you keep doing the same thing over and over again, you know, you are still required to forgive, but you don't have to trust. There's a difference there, right? Forgiving and trusting is two different things. You have to earn trust back. Forgiveness is free, right? You can forgive them, and then they have to earn your trust. And that's what Joseph did, is he tested them, and they proved they were changed people, that they were good people, and therefore he could trust and love them. And that's the difference. So again, we kind of went over forgiveness. We went over, and then trust, right? Which is kind of a different thing.
You hear stories of, you know, one spouse cheats, whether it's an emotional affair or a physical affair, what have you. And a lot of times that breaks up a marriage. But if the other person can find it in their heart, as we're called to forgive that doesn't automatically, you know, get that person who cheated back on the same level that they were in the relationship before. They have to earn that trust back. But I think having the partner say, I forgive you and I'm not going to bring this up again. That if you forgive them, you are kind of renouncing your ability to bring that back up and say, remember that time you cheated on me, or remember that time you did this?
Yeah, and if you're watching this program, chances are you're a Christian. What kind of Christian are you?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, when you pray for forgiveness and Jesus forgives your sins.
Yeah, it's done and gone.
It's done and gone. You gotta, he's gonna know you.
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna know your list, but you're gonna be blameless.
And I think it doesn't mean that it won't cross your mind in the future. I've had things, we haven't had much in our relationship at all, but when I am in a current issue, I've had things from the past come into my mind, but because I have forgiven that, I'm not going to bring it back up. I work through it myself and squash it because I have promised to him that it's not going to come up again. And that if I put that out there, I'd be going back on the forgiveness. And it's the devil who puts it back in my mind.
Right.
And so I say, screw you, devil, nice try. Right. It's not going to become a big thing again.
Right. And that's really the key thing. You have a filter on your mouth, and you need to have a filter on your mouth. And when you're fighting and you're in the passion of fighting with your significant other, that filter is extremely important, because that's, you have the temptation, particularly when you're losing, to go nuclear,
mm-hmm.
which is to bring these things from the past forward,
mm-hmm.
And to say things. And, it's better to take a deep breath. It's better to go pray about it, come back, and readdress it with calm heads. And do not, like Chase saying, be brutal. If you're brutal,
that's the stuff that then is going to be in your relationship after the conflict itself is gone.
Yeah.
All of those names you call, all of the stuff you drag up from the past, all of the things that you throw back in there, that then is going to be the harder part to resolve than whatever caused it in the first place.
Thanks, Chris. Forgiveness is free. Trust is earned. That's awesome. Thanks, man.
Anything else you want to say about forgiveness?
No.
And just kind of making
that
sure
the most
that you
freeing thing that you can ever do.
Mm-hmm.
When you forgive someone, it's a gift to them and you.
Mm-hmm.
You just release that baggage. And I know so many people who hold on to resentments for wrongs. I know people who keep lists of wrongs for 40 years, and they're going to die bitter, and they sucked on that poison every day.
And the people that wronged them
They've moved
they're
on
living their happy life.
Yeah.
That's the part. You're really killing yourself with it. But I just find I just whatever happened in the past, do not bring that back up in a new conflict.
Yeah, and then when it comes to language, when you're arguing, pretend, particularly if you have kids around, because it's true, that it's going to live, what you're saying is going to be replayed back on you 1,000 times.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to call someone a name, or if you're going to say something insulting, just imagine hearing that for the rest of your life, and you're watching your kids see that.
Mm-hmm.
I've recommended to people in the past, when record yourself or have your partner record what you say, and then watch it when you're not pissed off, and you're going to be disgusted by yourself.
Yeah. I know one of our good friends, Greg Degnan, he had shared with us before that his parents taught him how to do conflict resolution, because they made sure that whenever they had an issue, they had that conversation or debate in front of the kids. It helped keep them in check, and it was a role model for the kids on how to be respectful in figuring out that problem. A lot of parents will kind of wait for the kids to go to bed, retreat behind closed doors so that they can get uglier because they don't want the kids to see. But having that child there watching, you obviously are a little more aware of what's coming out of your mouth.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's brilliant. It's brave.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that what a standard. You've got your kids right there watching how adults should handle the toughest challenges of life.
It's kind of a twofold win. You're more respectful to your partner, and your kid is learning how to do it themselves.
So what's your next thing?
So the last one, this wasn't in my video, but I kind of threw it on there afterwards. Look at what this issue is from your partner's perspective. A lot of fights, you get very inward, you get very selfish and self-righteous in whatever is you're wrong, you were wronged. Look at it from how they are viewing the situation to see, was it a misunderstanding? why are they having their position in this? Try to appreciate that, because they're bringing all of the stuff that impacts their world into it. And again, conflicts are on such a large scale that this is going to be more relevant for some than others. But with our issue, you know, we needed to look at kind of why is Jason feeling so passionate and so strongly about the RV go up to Maine thing? Why is Lauren feeling so strongly that RVing isn't a good fit for us? And being able to appreciate that and respect that and understand that, I think can help you then feel more warmth and compassion to each other throughout the argument.
Yeah, and it also helps to frame it appropriately, right? So going back and having your partner say, so this is what I'm hearing you say. I'm not saying that this is right, but this is what I'm hearing.
Mm-hmm.
And having them clarify that, because oftentimes when we get hung up on something, you're not even saying what I'm hearing.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. That's a good point.
And the other way around. So making sure you're speaking the same languages,
Mm-hmm.
and that you're truly communicating to one another what is the agreed upon thing that you're disagreeing on.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Because that's so often not.
Yeah. A lot of times you're not even fighting about the same thing. Yeah. That's a good point. So that.
Yes, Brandy.
Yeah. Putting yourself in their shoes. Exactly. Because a lot of, they'll bring in their own situations as far as what made them handle that the way that they did. And I think, especially, and this is where you need to really extend grace and forgiveness, but in a situation where someone has cheated, a lot of times that was initiated by a lack of kind of emotional support from a partner in their marriage that left them feeling alone and they seek that elsewhere. And that does not excuse the cheating behavior. They should never do that.
Right.
But when a person, as the wronged party in that situation, as the person who was cheated on, it is hard, but I think very important for them to say, what did I contribute, or how did I fail in our marriage that got us here? And I think that's a lot of people don't do that because they feel so wronged that they don't want to also then say, I could do this better, and let's try to fix this moving forward.
Yeah, a lot of guys that I know that have fallen out of their marriage, it's not the physical thing that they cheated for. It was feeling alone, underappreciated.
Mm-hmm.
Their marriage is degraded. And again, I'm not justifying their behavior. They shouldn't be cheating on their wife, whatever.
Or husband. Yeah.
Or husband,
way.
whatever. They feel betrayed in a million other ways, and they use those betrayals to justify their behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So again, it's a dark, twisted thing if you let a balance sheet of wrongs
Mm-hmm.
build up in your relationship. That's one thing that I promised when the Lord gifted me Lauren's heart, that I said, I'm going to do this right. We're going to maintain constant communications.
Mm-hmm.
Lauren was not a communicator when I met her.
Nope.
And she's become a powerhouse, communication powerhouse. But before that, so now, that line of communication is up, so we don't got a bunch of crap weighing us down.
Yeah. So when the issue at hand's resolved, slate's clear. And that's a nice place to be.
Sorry you have a poor connection, Scott. So anything else you want to talk about tonight?
I think, that kind of wraps up my thoughts there. And, hopefully that helps some people out there in their marriages. Love to hear as people kind of watch this.
If you guys have any
if they have any other, people have been married longer than us, have had different conflicts than us. So if you had anything else that works, and especially that reflects your values as a Christian, and kind of fighting as a Christian, I think that, again, people put God aside when they hit a rough patch, and that's when we need him all the more. So, let us know what you guys do.
Yep. So the next thing I want to talk about is growing this podcast. So we've been stuck at about 1,040 people. We've been up to 46, down to 38. We're around 1,040. We really need you guys to help us with that. We need you to like, share, subscribe. You know, we need subscribers. Right now we need viewing hours. We're at 3.2K viewing hours. We need 4,000 viewing hours to be able to, you know, bring in the super chat function and monetize the channel and all those other things. We're going, because we're Christians and because we're conservatives, people attack us for what we do. I mean, I put out a video the other day, can God let you down? The first thing I got was a thumbs down. Someone who didn't even read it, who just hates God and wanted to hurt somebody who hates God. So if you guys don't have our back, and if you guys aren't liking our videos and sharing or doing whatever, I mean, that costs you nothing. Of course, we appreciate Patreon subscriptions. We appreciate you guys buying swag. We appreciate all that stuff. But if you guys can just make sure you like, subscribe, share. And one of the things you can do for us is, you know, go to the channel, click on videos, and click play all, and then go to bed. Because it'll play through all of our videos all night, and we'll rack up hours. We did great. We shot from like 2.7 to 3.2, and we're now back to a crawl. So I really would appreciate if you guys can do that. You know, we love our audience. We really care about you guys. We're praying for you guys, you know, and we're in it for the long haul with you. So I'm going to pray us out now, and then, we'll see you on Friday. For BYOBB. Bring your own beverage and buddy.
William.
You do not have to drink booze, particularly if you've been dry for 30-something years, because we are. It's just, there's nothing in the Bible that says you can't drink wine or booze, and we are. So, and we have a good time. Part of this show is to show people that you don't have to be a stick in the mud, not fun Christian, right? We live full, amazing, awesome lives. And, we do that all while loving God and honoring God at the same time. And too often, everyone thinks of Christianity as this box, and it's not a box.
You are allowed to laugh at memes.
Friday, not Thursday. Friday.
No, Thursday he's asking about Bible group.
Yeah, we'll be there. Yep, we'll be there unless we have power outages. I know that Texas right now is hurting, so I'll put this. So I'm going to take us to prayer now, and then we'll wrap up. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we come to you now. And our hearts are heavy for the loss of Rush Limbaugh. We're also on our thoughts and on our minds and on our hearts are the people of Texas who are in North Carolina, and then the whole country right now who's getting whacked with this cold, and a lot of people who aren't used to it. We've had terrible pileups and losses of life and changes of life. We've had people whose houses are burning down and the fire hydrants are freezing. Lord, we ask that you wrap your caring arms around each and every one of them and their loved ones and give them your peace, Lord. Lord, we also ask that you meet everyone where they're at and you show them where you want them to be in you, Lord. We pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
All right, guys, that's all we got for you tonight. We'll see you for small group tomorrow at 8:30 in the Facebook group, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, and then Friday.
BYOBB, bring a buddy. Come on, I hope we're up to at least 1,050 subscribers by then because you guys talked to your friends and shared it. Don't keep us just to yourself. Share us.
Yeah, don't be selfish. It's not Christian of you guys.
Talk to you later. Love you. Bye.